Well, hey everybody, it is Romania Black, and we are on episode 3 of A Place Further Than the Universe, and it's very weird to think we're not quite a fourth of the way through the series yet. We're not quite, but we're pretty darn close. Which is wild, right? So like between episodes 4 and 5 we'll be like a third of the way done, which is bizarre. But last two episodes we have met three of our team that show up in the OP. We obviously have Shirase, who wants to orchestrate this whole event. We have Kimari, who thinks that she's going along with this on her grand adventure. And we met Hinata last episode, and I love her. She's this big bubbly ball of sunshine, as one would expect from Hinata, because I know Hina means sun, so that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, they tried to infiltrate this Antarctic group meet, and it didn't seem like the adults present were too keen about them coming on board the trip to Antarctica. I can't imagine why. So I'm gonna be really curious to see like if and how our crew gets to Antarctica, since they seem pretty much against the entire endeavor for reasons that I'm sure are going to get explored in this series. But a couple quick comments that I want to talk about before we started. Foranoda for episode 1 said, fun fact, Arctic and Antarctic literally mean bears and no bears. Which is great, right? Also, it is 14,000 kilometers, not 1,400. There's a slight difference. Yeah, y'all, I hate the phrase girl math because it insinuates that women are not as intelligent as men or are not as savvy with mathematics as men, and I don't like the kind of sexist connotation that's with that phrase. However, I do think it's accurate to say that since I am an English major, typically one side of your brain gravitates towards mathematics and calculations and that type of processing and thinking. The other side is more of creative endeavors and critical thinking upon that side of the brain. I am definitely more in the English wheelhouse than the math wheelhouse. So just to settle on that. I can do math, it's just not my favorite. And the title is technically correct. It is only 100 kilometers or 62 miles above sea level until you reach what is generally considered space. That's wild. So the fact that, and we talked about it last week, but the fact that it is closer to the space above us than it is to Antarctica is just, it's hard to wrap your mind around it sometimes, right? It's crazy. I did notice in episode 2, I didn't talk about it in the discussion, but there's kind of a focus on the glass and the ice cubes in the glass. It was at the beginning of the episode and then it's at the end of the episode. It's kind of like a nice little bookend for that moment. And then Alex Cornejo for episode 2 said, I love the explanation of why Antarctica gets called a place further than the universe. If they pull it off, these high school girls really will be putting Katy Perry to shame. Look, Katy Perry suffered enough. Do we really need to drag her anymore? Do we need to drag her any more than she has already been drug? Although, oh my gosh, what a weird PR move. If you don't know what we're talking about, just go look up Blue Origin. It's like, Katy Perry's not had a great year. Let's not make it any worse for her. Anyway, I'm very excited. I want to give a very quick shout out to Sunspots, though. Sunspots is a patron who is part of our philanthropy tier and did a massive solid for me because the other night my internet went out and it's back now, thankfully. But there was an outage and I have notoriously terrible internet. And it went out and I was like, crap, what if I want to watch this episode tonight and I still don't have my internet? And so when I go to work, I have really good internet at work. So I asked Sunspots, I'm like, hey, would you care if you could upload episode 3 of A Place Further Than the Universe and I will be able to watch that episode just in case the power's not back on? And they, without hesitation, was like, yeah, sure. That was so kind of them. They didn't have to do that and take time out of their day to get that file ready for me. So thank you, Sunspots, so much for helping me get that episode. I really, really appreciated it. And thank you, Patreon and patrons and everybody following. I've just reached a sub goal over on YouTube, which is exciting. That's so much fun. And I'm so thankful for everybody's support and that they like watching the channel. It's a wild time. But yeah. So anyway, I'm super excited to see what all we're going to get this episode. I've got this pulled up that Sunspot's got for me, so I'm very thankful. So I hope you all enjoy, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to start A Place Further Than the Universe, episode 3. This damn Tanuki staring me in the face is terrifying. And we're going to do this here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, dang, that was such a good episode from start to finish. It was really bookended really well. The whole I could die phrase by Yuzuki. I really, really liked that. I want to call her like Yuzu's. I think of like Zuzu's petals from It's a Wonderful Life, and I think of Yuzu. So but Yuzuki, yeah. Yuzuki is our social media influencer who is a celebrity, a child celebrity, and we're going to talk about her in this episode. But yeah, starting off the episode with them dang tanukis, them dang raccoons, which Shimayama on Discord was like, they're not creepy, they're cute. And I was like, well, they are cute. I think it's just the giant soulless eyes and shark teeth that just but I do have a couple of them, so I do appreciate that they are, for good luck. But I like the idea of her bookending with the I could just die, of her being kind of melancholy at the start. And then by the end of the episode, she's saying, I could just die in a sense of, I'm happy that I'm here, right? So I really like the title cards, because the title cards like we got for episode 2 had, it had Kimari and Shirase's like handles over on Instagram and all that. And here we have, C Yuzu. So we have hers. But, the FOLLOWBACKS Don't Stop, which is her song that which is, it's cringe. She can't help it, but like I could see some influencer on TikTok having a song called The FOLLOWBACKS Don't Stop, and I'd be like, ugh. I'm actually recording this on my birthday. I just turned 37 and I feel ancient by internet standards. I know that's not old. I know it's not. You're not even middle-aged. You're in the first like third of your life practically. But still, it's like it's still like, I just think of like I'm not a TikTok song person, honestly. That's where I show my age, right? So yeah, so it's freaking hot outside in this episode, which is funny. We're getting this right towards summer. And so they're meanwhile trying to find a way to get to Antarctica, our trio. I appreciate this discussion about hot tea in summer and how that works. I love coffee and hot tea, but it is difficult I can get behind coffee anytime, so that's fine. But I'm usually not a tea drinker unless I'm sick, unless it's like fall and winter, because I think of tea as like those kind of seasonal drinks. I could drink coffee all day, every day though. So, but I really liked this setup of the three of them being like, what are we going to do? And then Shirase's like, well, this is ridiculous that we don't get to go. And I love that Hinata does not take any of her sass. She's like, oh, well, this was your idea. We're just going to flirt with a bunch of guys. How is that any different? And Shirase's like, shut up. But I like that. I also I'm assuming we're at Shirase's house, because she has like the Antarctic poster in the background. I like there's a book that's a lanternfish. Lanternfish are terrifying. If you've ever seen one or a picture of one, they're terrifying. She's got a picture of those. She has like a little nesting doll. I like she has the model of the ship. Like girl is invested in going on this trip. And she's like, we just got to figure out a way to get them to let us go. And they're like, well, who? And that's when Hinata finds the headline that says a high school girl. And it says, high school girl goes to Antarctica, young celebrity to join the 3-month expedition. Only had 29 likes so far, but it just came out, right? I like that they're promoting this seal soda as the fake product placement in the ad. That's super cute. But yeah, it says what does it say here? The planned civilian Antarctic expedition team has announced plans I want to go back and read this with them, to bring a news crew that includes a high school girl, which accompanying them will be Shiraishi Yuzuki-san, who's a celebrity, has been doing modeling and acting since she was like 4 years old. But I get why they would want it makes sense now why the two women had Yuzuki's mother. I thought they were sisters. I was like, damn, girl has not aged. But if you're like a model actress, those genetics, right? So it makes sense now why the women wanted to get Shiraishi on board, because she's got celebrity input. And if you get celebrity input, you get money and funding. So it reminds me a little bit of Jurassic Park, which has just premiered on this channel. But in Jurassic Park, you had to get like some people to sign off, like the experts and all that. But then you had like Ian Malcolm, who was kind of like just kind of a well-known. He wasn't necessarily a celebrity, but he was kind of well-known, you know, like in that vein. So you had to get like that correspondence to sign off on it. So this feels very Jurassic Park, right? But yeah, she'll be doing streams about the trip to Antarctica. And so then there's a little logo that is on the car at the end that says Challenge for Antarctic. Which, you know what? I like the modernization idea that there would be a streamer doing reports back on the internet for this trip. That makes sense. Of course, Shirase is like, damn it, someone beat me to it. What I thought was interesting about this is that Shirase exudes so much confidence when it comes to getting these girls together and making these plans. But when you get her in front of a crowd to public speak, it doesn't go over well, which is interesting for a character. I feel like it's a nice character layer for her, that she's not someone that likes being in the spotlight, which is interesting, right? So they probably didn't realize they probably realized it would cause trouble if they mentioned it, which I feel like celebrities in Japan have a lot of extra publicity rules that in the US we don't have. So it says, Shirase is like, no, I'm going to explain to her that I'm a high school girl and the daughter of an expedition member. In all honesty, I am surprised that Shirase, that playing of the I'm the daughter of the missing person card doesn't go over as well as it does. However, now that we know what we know, there's a couple things. One, we've talked about last episode about the reasons why they wouldn't want her going. But now if you add a celebrity into the mix, you know, they say any press is good press. But if you have the notion that this woman's disappeared on that expedition, it might cause some people to delay funding said expedition because they're afraid it might happen again. So I could kind of see why they don't want Shirase going, but I'm really surprised that it's not worked out for her up until this point, that she basically has to use. Now the question is Yuzuki's mom going to be enough clout to, I guess it will, because Yuzuki literally said, I'm not going if they don't go. So I guess those two women, if they want the funding, they're going to let her go. But that's going to be interesting. How's that going to go? So yeah. So they're like, okay, we're starting to figure out how Shirase operates. And that's when they're like, well, don't you want to go to Antarctica? And that's when Yuzuki shows up. So at first, Yuzuki just wants to have Shirase go for her, and that's it. She's like, I don't want to go. I want to hang out with my friends. And it's interesting that she went ahead of the mom. That's really curious that she got on the train and went ahead of her. But then she has her debut single, The FOLLOWBACKS Won't Stop. It feels very Carly Rae Jepsen. Feels very Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Maybe kind of vibes. And then she's like, I could just die. I'm so embarrassed. Again, I like that we have it from the beginning to not quite the middle and then the end of the episode. But yeah, they basically are like, oh, take a picture of us. And at first, we're going to talk about this. At first, they kind of do like the whole thing that the other supposed friends did, where they try to take a picture with her. And she's like, no, my contract says, my NDA is like, you can't get a picture with me. That would go against that. The difference is the two fake friends, that was the end point, and they didn't want to be her friend after that. Whereas this group is like, well, fine, then we don't have to get a picture with you. It's totally fine. So then they ask her, why are you here? She's like, I just don't want to go. I was invited, but I have other things I want to do. So she hands out the TV program outline, which is basically, I guess, what she was going to act out, and gives it to Shirase. I love the idea that Shirase gets so excited and she stubs her toe and crashes into the door. And then while she's just being dramatic, Hinata's like, do you want this, like, apple bunnies? Don't mind the idiot. It's great. And so, yeah, then when she sees that her sister's on the way, she decides to leave and bumps, not her sister, her mom, and bumps right into her. She looks so young. I think that she's the sister, but she is her mother, which is so wild to me. These genetics, I tell you. So, yeah, Tomiko. Tomiko is Yuzuki's mom, and she is the producer and manager of this promotion, which there's a lot that we can say about. I've kind of fallen into, when I'm not doing stuff on the channel, I'm usually grading papers for the classes that I teach, or I'm just chilling out watching Drag Race. But recently, I've kind of fallen into the rabbit hole of, I like watching things about things I have not a lot of knowledge about. And so I've fallen into the rabbit hole about like TikTok influencers because I'm never on TikTok. So I'm like, what's been going on over there? I want to know. And so I kind of have really gotten into the rabbit hole of people talking about like parents and who like videotape their kids as content and how creepy that is and wrong that is. And I don't think Tomiko is a bad person, but she definitely is that stereotypical parent that wants their child to have success and is pushing them towards like this fame. And then the repercussions that they don't quite realize, they're like, oh, well, when you're done, you'll just go to a fancy school. And Yuzuki's like, I don't want to go to a school. I want friends. I want connections. I don't care what college I go to after my celebrity career is over. I want friendships and to meet people. And she's like, I'm not being able to do that. So, she's like, would these girls be able to do it instead? And they're like, I like that Kimari and Hinata talk about how pretty Shirase is, which she is beautiful. But the mom's like, looks aren't enough. Can you perform? I love that. I love when Shirase tries to with the apple and it doesn't work. And Hinata instantly like grabs the kimono and tries to act out to her. I love that Kimari has like the headdress on. That's like what they use for the people that are stagehands that aren't supposed to be seen by the audience. Hilarious. And like, what are we even doing? So we can go back to that text message with Yuzuki, where she's like, yeah, I want to go. And they're like, oh, are you still too busy for us? How's next Sunday? Yuri and Aina are the two there. Which, okay, look. If she said she wanted to go, but the difference is if you were really trying to be friends with her, you'd be like, okay, cool. Well, maybe next time. Maybe next time. But that one girl, Aina, she was really bitchy with that tone. Like, oh, you're still too busy for us. I'd be like, bitch, what? She's a little bit snooty with that tone. A wee bit snooty. At least Yuri just said, you sure? How about next Sunday? So here's the thing. She's like, would you be my friends? And she's like, sorry, I just don't know. Because then she says, how's next Sunday? And she says, sorry, I just don't know yet. Which, I mean, here's the thing. The two friends agreed to like hang out with her knowing she's a celebrity. So if you know she's a celebrity, you probably are privy to the fact that she's got a busy schedule, which, I could see how in other circumstances it would come across as you're flaking out, but in this case, she's kind of in the middle of something. But so we go back to the convenience store, and Hinata and Kimari talk about Shirase is just not good at speaking in public to people. But then the mom has talked to Shirase saying if you can convince her to go, then you might be able to go as companions. And so like, well, all right, what do we do? I love that Shirase, I love this angle of Shirase. She's not someone that wants to be in the limelight and talking in public, but behind the scenes, she plans everything out. She's like, well, she's staying at a hotel still Saturday, so we're going to go on a plane. We're going on a train. We're going to go see her. We're going to go hang out by her project. We're going to do this, this, and this, and we'll go to Tokyo. And like, she has a whole plan figured out, regardless of whether she's going to say yes or no, which is great. And they're like, pick a time. And then I like that Hinata says, settle down. I really like that. I like that Hinata, who's usually like all sunshine, is the one to be like, whoa. For her to calm you down, that says something, right? If she's that set against it, she probably has a serious reason. It's probably, she did say she's from Hokkaido, and I know from other series that I've watched across this channel, Hokkaido is like a northern region that is fairly cold, has a lot of snow. So yeah, I can understand her not really wanting to go because it's just kind of more of the same in a sense. So yeah, they're wondering what the reason is. And then I like this scene where Hinata and Shirase like travel back on the train, and Shirase talks about self-loathing, where she says, I was thinking that you're probably right, Hinata. And then she says, all this time I've only been considering my own feelings. I haven't been thinking about anyone else. I like that Hinata's like, wait, you're just now realizing that you've been selfish? She's like, shut up, I'm having a moment. But yeah, she's like kidding. She says, as they say, there's a thin line between being assertive and being selfish. I really like that, because it's like, are you being assertive and trying to get what you want and what you're driving towards, or are you being selfish? And it is a thin line. So it's like, what divides that line there? I like it. Because then she's like, well, who says that? And she's like, me. I like that Hinata has these little phrases. It's super cute. Now, don't mind me noticing that their hands are over the top of each other in this animation and that they lean against each other. Don't mind me noticing this is a throuple. Don't mind me noticing it's probably about to become a polycule. Don't worry about it. I was like, is this like free Iwatobi Swim Club, except in the Antarctic? Now, I will say the one person I kind of feel for in all of this series so far is Megumi. Even though we talked about how Megumi was technically one of the ones holding her back and saying, no, don't go and don't do that, I do kind of feel a little bit for Megumi-chan, because she is being left out and she seems to care for Kimari. So I do feel bad for her. I feel bad for her in a sense. I think that she would still try to discourage them not to go. So I'm not totally sad that she's not there, but I do think that she clearly cares about Kimari, and it's kind of sad. Kind of sad that she doesn't get to hang out with them. It kind of feels like when Yuzuki says no to the other friends, but I think the difference is the other friends were not truly genuine, whereas I feel as Megumi is a genuine friend, but they're both kind of being flaked off too, so we'll see where that goes with her character. But yeah, so they end up like sneaking around. I love Hinata thought that she wasn't being sneaky. And they go to a restaurant. Now, I really love what she says here. She's like, I have to catch up on my classes. And she says this place has free refills and it's open late. Girl, best of both worlds. When I was in college, there was a coffee shop that was right by campus. It was like a 2-minute walk. And I spent hours upon hours there doing homework and researching. It was one of those great places. Like I'm not someone that needs silence to work, but I need like some kind of white noise to be productive, like just something in the distance. So the coffee shop was nice because people would be having conversations and you didn't have to listen. You could just, they'd be like, but you could have their coffee. It was open late at night because it was like a lot of college students there. They gave you free refills on coffee. If you got the biggest cup, they'd give you free refills, which was amazing. And I was like, yes. So it was fantastic. Totally good deal. But yeah, at first she's like, I don't want to just go to Antarctica. And at first, I do like that they're pretty realistic about her figuring out that the mom put her up to it and thinking the mom was just like paying them off or giving them money to try to convince her to go. And she's like, no. And of course, Kimari is the ultimate empath. And Kimari is like, but why don't you want to go? And then she's like, well, let me tell you. And she explains about trying to get friends. And I kind of love that Kimari is so empathetic that she instantly wants to just know. And I like the way Kimari frames it. She's like, you don't have to tell us, but I still want to know, regardless of your mom trying to convince us to make you go with us. I do want to know what your reason is. It gives onus to Yuzuki and gives her the ability to make that choice of whether she wants to say or not. It gives her power and authority, which seem to have been constantly taken away from her. So I kind of like that. And then she decides to tell him, saying like, she's like, I don't have any friends. I never have. I've been a child actress since I was 4 years old. And then we see like this one image where they show her in front of a blackboard saying, congrats on your TV appearance. And then I'm sure because she's always been gone on TV shoots and stuff, she doesn't have a lot of time to integrate into the classrooms, right? She hasn't had a lot of time to play. Because she waves and they're all like, okay. And then while they're off doing assignments and parties and stuff, she has to go on photo shoots. Which you get the mom trying to the mom trying to provide for her, but then at the same time, it's like she doesn't really have a childhood. She's just constantly like on this next gig. I've never had to be able to even argue with friends. The only one I fight with is my mom. And Kimari instantly kind of knows what that's like. Not that she's a celebrity, but Kimari knows what it's like to not really have friends and to not really connect with people and to be scared of chasing those opportunities. And then she's like, once I got into high school, I decided to make friends no matter what. And that's when she had to choose these two people that are like kind of just hanging out with her only because she's a celebrity. And then here's the thing. When they wanted to take the photo with her and she says, sorry, I can't. I'm a celebrity. I can't do that for my contract. They could have just been like, oh, okay, never mind. But instead they kind of just flake her off. And I'm like, well, that wasn't very nice. Why would you do that? So yeah. So she's like, if I get good grades, that'll help me get more friends too. She says, once everyone settles into groups and everyone's relationships are decided, it'll be too late. And of course, Kimari's like, I love Kimari giving her the hug because Kimari's like, I know what you're going through. It's not the same, but I know what you're feeling. And I like that Yuzuki's like, no, you don't. She's like, yes, I do. She's like, I get what you're going through. And she's like, that's why I'm trying to go to Antarctica, because I want to have a moment to live. And then when she said, you all are best friends, right? And they're like, we haven't met each other for more than 4 weeks. They just all hit it off because they're good people. Like, they instantly have great chemistry because they're great people. It's like, yeah, no, everything worked out. And she's like, you could be part of this friendship too. She's like, I hope your mother understands what you're feeling. I feel like that could be something that's going to happen later on in this series. I am glad that she got that off her chest. Sometimes when you have stuff pin up like that, it is good to just get it out there for somebody to hear. And you need somebody beside your parent to hear it. So love that. So she goes back to the hotel. And then she goes back upstairs. And they're like, I love Hina. Hinata's like, so are we good? Did we make any progress? We came here to convince her. And then Kimari's like, well, on the one hand, if she doesn't go, then Shirase can go by herself in her place. But then if we get her to go, we could all go. So, but then that's when Shirase brings up the very real possibility that she's like, look, if Yuzuki doesn't go, they're just going to find another celebrity to go instead. They're not going to ask us to go because we're not celebrities. That's not going to get them any marketing. So she says, sorry, maybe next time. And they leave the group chat. Which is really sad. The only part of this episode, and I'm going to I already know people are going to be like, rah, 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 Romania. But I'm going to say the only part of this episode that was kind of weird, it's not weird. It's just, if you're around it growing up a lot, and if you see it in media all the time, you can't unsee it. It's kind of like once you learn about something, you can't unsee it. But there were a few shots of Yuzuki, like when she's like getting all giddy and kicking her feet and stuff. And like when she's in the floor, there was a couple poses and ways that she was drawn that, now hear me out. It wasn't sexualizing her like, in a gratuitous or fetishy way. I'm not saying that. It was a little male gazy, and I was like, oh, okay. And once you grow up seeing that imagery, you can't unsee it. You just notice it anytime it happens. And it was a little like there could have been another angle. They could have shown that in. I'm just saying. And I'm just being 100 with you all because that's how I do. But I noticed that. But anyway, it was just for a few moments in that ending scene. I was like, but it is what it is. But she says, is this what it feels like to have friends? I love the window scene. I thought the window scene was real. I thought it was very dramatic. I thought it was dramatic, which now it makes sense. She put her head down, fell asleep, and then the dream happens, and it's all very seamless, so you can't really tell. But for a hot second, I thought it was just really like windy outside, and they were like getting her to come up and on the window. Them being on the ladder seemed like something they would do. It seemed like something they would do. And then when she pulled her out the window, that's when I was like, is this real? Is she dying? And then she wakes up. It was very well done. I loved it. I love, of course, Kimari is the one that's like, take my strong hand. Just have Yuzuki with his tiny little hand come out. Mm-hmm. Well, the best part, though, is that when she wakes up, the window's partially open, and that's when she hears the knocking on the door. Love it. Love it. And at that point, the other two girls have left the group chat, so she really has nothing to lose. It's like, I have nothing to lose by going with you all and going to Antarctica, because you're sitting here offering friendship to me, and I would be stupid to say no. So I love that she's just like, I love they all showed up so early, and they which here's the thing. They took the train to the hotel. They took transportation to get there. So they got up super early to go see her. That shows her dedication, right? And that's kind of a big thing, because it's one thing for your friends to want to hang out with you and you can't. And I feel like there's either a couple ways to do it. You're either not friends with them, or you say, okay, you were busy that week, maybe next time, or you go to her. Like, there's those three options. And the two girls chose to just flake out and leave. But the other options are you just wait for her to meet up with you again, or you go find her. And the fact that these three made the effort to go find her and actually seek her out shows they want to be friends and proves that they want that relationship. And that's so awesome. And I love that. I love that the other girls left. They didn't pursue her. These girls pursued her. And that speaks volumes. So yeah, they're going to Tokyo, and they're like, we want you to come with us. And so she gets ready. It's super cute. I love that she gets all sad, and she's just like, I have friends now. Oh, I didn't think I'd ever have friends. Like, poor Yuzuki. Like, what a sweetheart. And then they go to the Polar Research Center. They see the Institute. They see the replicas. They get to go in the snowcat, which is fun. They get to see penguins. I like that Kimari's looking at the pulley system, which is interesting. But yeah, they get to explore everything. And then I'm like, is Hinata's comment about the top bunk hinting at anything in her relationship dynamic? Who knows? But it says they keep the rooms over 20 degrees Celsius. So they're basically learning everything they can about the Antarctic expedition and what it's going to be like. Right? And then they take the selfie, which is super cute. I don't know why Shirase was looking down during the selfie. I guess she just got surprised. And then they see the Northern Lights. And then Shirase talks about her mom crying when she saw them in person. Now, I have not seen the Northern Lights. There was like a phase where there was some stardust coming through like last fall. And you could kind of see like remnants of it, but it wasn't the same. And then I do like the fact that they say that that they'll be like, some of the only high school kids to ever go to Antarctica, which is kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. And then that's when Yuzuki says, I could just die. I like the fact that we have Hinata and Yuzuki kind of together in the ED, and then them all there. Now, we did get the woman at the very end, who I thought at the very beginning, I thought the woman that was in the car that also showed up with the other two ladies, because her hair's straight, whereas Yuzuki's mom hair is the ringlets. I thought they were all related. That does not seem to be the case. But I'm like, is she Shirase's like aunt? I don't think she's the mom, because she has a mole and the mom doesn't. But is she the mom's sister? Yeah, because she has like a mole on her face. She's clearly not. But she has the same eye color as Yuzuki, so I don't know. But she's in a car that says that's with the Antarctic expedition, so mysteries indeed. But yeah, I love them going to the museum. It's super cute. I love them getting to hang out together and having like a little friend journey. And I think what I liked most about it during the reaction was just the fact that they just want to be friends with her. But they don't want to be friends with her because she's a celebrity. They just like her for who she is. And it started out as them wanting to bribe her so that they could go on this trip. But now they're kind of like, well, we kind of understand your story and it kind of sucks, so we want to help you out. Like, that's super sweet. And then them booking ending it. Yuzuki's character's great. I like her a lot. I really like her backstory in this one episode. And at this point, we're like a fourth of the way into the series practically. So that feels appropriate. We've met our 4 characters. I've talked on other channels with other shows about, in Western narratives, there's oftentimes like a 3-act structure. You have beginning, middle, and end. So by that logic, this would have been your episodes 1 through 4 would have been your beginning, which makes sense. We've met all the characters, the main 4 ones. We've set up what they're going to do. And then the middle act is them actually doing the thing. And the third act is the resolution and the climax and all that. Now, traditional Japanese structure has 4 stages, 4 acts. They have the setup, which would be like the first 3 episodes. The second act where things get set into motion, which could fall in line here with Yuzuki showing up. And then they have your third act, which is like the twist, which could still happen. And then the fourth act is the climax and resolution. So we'll see. If this was the start, middle, and end, then this is kind of the ending of our beginning. We've set up our 4 main girls. We have a mission. We have a conflict that we're going to try to resolve. We have a means of getting it resolved. So it's all a matter of time now to see what we end up doing. So yeah, I'm curious. To see how this setup's going to work. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen next episode, especially now that Yuzuki is fully realized. So yeah, I'm super curious to know your thoughts down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of A Place Further Than the Universe. Bye!